In the 1920s, Newhall grew from a town site into a village. Main Street had moved from Railroad Avenue over to Spruce Street, the Ridge Route was complete, and for the first time, traffic was passing through our town at a pretty good clip. Because of this unprecedented traffic, men such as Clay Needham and A.C. Swall wanted to build on this prosperity. Hello, my name is Scorza, and I'd like to welcome you to our show, Points of Interest. Before 1910, there were only two ways to get into our valley, by train or through Beals Cut. The automobile couldn't climb the steep grade leading up to Beals Cut, so cars had to either use their reverse gear and drive backwards to get into our valley, or employ the use of mules to pull them up the steep incline. As you can imagine, this discouraged a lot of people from wanting to come here. In 1910, the California Highway Commission began building the Ridge Route, the first concrete highway leading north out of L.A. A highway tunnel was built at the crest of today's Sierra Highway. The Newhall Tunnel, as it was called, was 500 feet long and barely wide enough for two cars to squeeze through. It's said that trucks carrying high loads had to deflate their tires to clear the roof of the tunnel. The tunnel was eventually cut away in 1938. Despite the tunnel's inconvenience, the highway worked. It brought people into Newhall. Things were looking up for the 600 or so citizens of our valley. Several enterprising businessmen wanted to build on this invasion, so in 1921, the Newhall Improvement Association was formed. Men such as A.B. Perkins, our first historian, Fred Lampkin, and Albert Swall thought that Newhall needed some boosting, so they put out this brochure. It's revealing in the photos that they chose to herald our community. That's the First Presbyterian Church, which dates back to 1891. And the Second Presbyterian Church, which was new back in the 1920s. It was destroyed by the 1971 earthquake. My favorite photos are the ones showing Spruce Street circa 1920. The two-lane road is asphalted, but the parking is dirt and there are no curbs. This photo looks south from 9th Street, where the Travelers Cafe boasts of special Sunday turkey or chicken dinners. Here we are looking north from 8th Street. The tiny brick Bank of America had recently opened, and we were mighty proud of it. That building with the awning is Campton's old general store, the back of it anyway. This photo looks south from Market Street. The drugstore, in fact the whole block, was owned by A.C. Swall. At one time or another, a good portion of downtown Newhall was owned by Albert Swall. A.C. Swall is an interesting person. His life's work took him outside of our city, but his influence was definitely felt here. At one time, Swall owned all four corners of Doheny Drive and Santa Monica Boulevard. Swall was born in Tracy, California in 1883. His father, Jake, and his brothers ran a harvester near Del Sur in the Antelope Valley. Let me tell you how Swall influences your life every time you drive down San Fernando Road. Have you ever wondered why San Fernando Road has a curve here instead of going straight? Well, it's all because of A.C. Swall. When he was 19, Albert decided there was an easier way to make a living, so he opened a meat market on Railroad Avenue. The man who owned the building wanted to raise the rent, and Swall would have none of that, so he moved over to Spruce Street. Now, at the time, there were only three businesses on Spruce Street. The Second Southern Hotel, which stood on the southeast corner of Market and San Fernando Road, Ed Pardee's livery stable, which stood about where the Newhall hardware store stands today on San Fernando Road, and Tom Frew's blacksmith shop, which stood directly across the street from the livery stable, naturally. 2 years later, the California Highway Commission began building the Ridge Route. They didn't like the jog Railroad Avenue made around the train station, but the property owners on Railroad Avenue didn't want to do anything about it. Swall talked with Ed Pardee and Tom Frew, and together they bought Block 10, the northeast corner of Lyons Avenue and San Fernando Road. Back then, it was called 10th and Spruce Street. Anyway, they eagerly offered it to the commission, and the highway was routed through Newhall down Spruce Street, with only a slight curve in the road. Eventually, Swall built the drugstore and hotel on the corner of Market and Spruce Street. That's today's San Fernando Road. Swall installed the first electric light seen in the Santa Clarita Valley in his two-story brick building. It's said people came from as far away as Acton to witness this marvel. Swall moved to L.A. in 1924, but continued to buy and sell real estate in Newhall. It has been said that he is the only man who would put $1 of his own money into local improvement. In 1944, Swall began selling his holdings in Newhall. He died in 1949 at the age of 66. It has been said he never failed to give generously to any cause befitting his beloved town. The last thing the Newhall Improvement Association did before disbanding was cut down the trees along Spruce Street. This left, according to A.B. Perkins, our first historian, a repulsive vista of shack fronts for the tourists to view. Another one of those dedicated local businessmen who helped turn Newhall into a town was Henry Clay Needham. For the first 2 decades of this century, his was the only voice heard in the rest of L.A. County. Henry Clay Needham was a tall, slender man with bushy eyebrows and gray, piercing eyes. He was born in Hardin County, Kentucky in 1851 and was an ardent prohibitionist. Needham was brought to Newhall in the 1880s to help establish a non-alcoholic colony in our community. Several Los Angeles businessmen contracted with the Newhall Land and Farming Company for the land south of Saugus to the town site of Newhall. In other words, most of today's Valencia. The collapse of the economy ruined this enterprise, but Needham stayed on and made Newhall his home. He opened a hardware store and lumber yard to support his wife and 5 children. He also dabbled in local oil fields, farming, ranching, and mining. It was said that Needham was the only active promoter of Newhall at a time when the village sadly needed promoting. He contributed to the second Newhall Elementary School and was a founding member of the Presbyterian Church. After the turn of the century, the economy revived. Around 1910, Needham and some new partners purchased the land south of today's Lyons Avenue and started the Happy Valley subdivision. The cash infusion to our local economy was much needed and appreciated. Needham was an orator in the old school style of speaking, a master at the political art of persuasion. Vocally, he played all the stops from a whisper to a thunder. His blinding oratory carried him to the Prohibition National Convention in 1920 as candidate for President of the United States. Needham fell ill of heat prostration at the crucial moment, and the nomination went to someone else. In 1920, Needham constructed a replica of a Kentucky cabin on his ranch, which is today's Eternal Valley Cemetery. He furnished it with rifles hanging on pegs in the wall, including an 1830 model he learned to shoot as a boy. Henry Clay Needham died February 21st, 1936, at the age of 85, but not before leaving his mark on the fledgling town of Newhall. Recently, we met with a lady who was born in 1910 and remembers Newhall in the 1920s very well. Let's go meet Gladys Laney now. We're at the home of my friend Tom Frew, and he's joined us today. Actually, he's been very nice to invite us over to his house. How are you, Gladys?
Fine, thank you, Phil.
Now, you were born in what year?
1910.
1910, okay. And we want to talk with you a little bit about Newhall in the 1920s, but before we get to that, tell us a little bit about your parents. How did they happen to come to Newhall?
Well, my mother came here in 1880s because her then husband worked up in Pico. But
up in the oil field.
Yes, but she came back. My father came here, probably in 1905, 1906, 1907, sometimes along there. I'm not sure just when.
Mm-hmm. And where did they live?
Well, he helped build the house that my mother built on the corner of Newhall and Market Street.
Oh, okay. Is that where the senior center is today?
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you were born?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We have a postcard here that was supposedly taken from either your parents' property or right next door to it.
I think probably so. Yes, from what's presently the Hart property.
Now, do you recognize any of the buildings? I guess that building in the far left there under the trees is Tom Frew's grandparents' house, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what is this funny-looking building with the slanted roof over here right in the center of the picture? Do you know what that is?
Would that be the old hotel?
Yes, I think so. What they call the Second Southern Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's something off to the right here. It looks like a barn to me, but they call it Conrad's Dance Hall. Do you remember anything about that?
Yes, uh-huh.
Did they actually have dances in the...
Yes, uh-huh. And had entertainment there.
So that was like the hot spot in town then, probably.
Evidently, yes. I wasn't there when I was going to dances. That was a little before my time, but I remember it and remember the entertainments they used to have there, you know.
What, like a live band or something like that?
Oh, no, just the kids, you know, from the schools, that kind of an entertainment.
Oh, I see. Okay. I have some photos here I'd like to share with you about Newhall in the 1920s. You might remember some of this. Let's start off with this one here. This was taken, I think, 1918, 1919, when the Hotel Swall was just built. We're looking north on what today we call San Fernando Road.
Yes,
it was Spruce Street then. Do you remember that? Does that look familiar to you?
That's the Doty garage, yes.
The Doty garage on the right side.
Wasn't much up this way.
This was sort of the beginning of the town, wasn't it?
Yes,
then? So you would be coming in from L.A., and this would be the first thing you see.
Yes,
We noticed that the roads are not paved.
No, not yet.
I have another picture of the hotel here. This is on the corner of, the drugstore on the corner of Market and
looks
Spruce.
like Mr. Swall, but I wouldn't be sure about it.
I believe that is Mr. Swall, yes.
It looks like him. I don't recognize this man. I don't know who first opened the first drugstore here. I know Mr. Houghton, Lloyd Houghton's father, ran it for some time.
Wasn't there a Mr. Young?
That was later.
Oh, that was later?
Mr. Young, but that was later. And Mr. Houghton may have opened it, but I'm not sure. But I know he had it.
I know my Aunt Marion worked behind the fountain, and that was Mr. Young.
Yeah, but that would be after the opening quite a while. It had been.
I know she mentioned several times that Mr. Young insisted, and when he wasn't watching, she didn't do it, insisted on washing the ice and reusing it in the glasses.
Well,
penny saved, huh?
Yes. Ice wasn't so easy to come by in those days, you know.
That's right.
Well, didn't we have
have ice cubes and things like that?
Didn't we have the Newhall ice house at that time?
Probably, but I'm
ice
not
was
sure.
expensive.
Yes, yeah.
Well, now this is also a hotel. I'm presuming the hotel was upstairs. Am I correct in that? You would
Yes.
Because in the picture it shows.
This is where the bus used to pick us up here, the school bus to go to San Fernando High.
Ah.
And we stood there in the cold and the rain or what have you, waiting for the bus.
So let's look at this picture here. I believe this is 8th Street.
Store.
Is it 8th Street and
yes,
Spruce?
That would
the
be
old
right.
bank?
Yeah.
B of A,
At the old Bank of America, the brick building. And this place next door, is that Brickers?
Yeah, that's Brickers.
Now, supposedly that was the back of Kempton's General Store when he was
I see.
When he was facing Railroad Avenue. He when they moved Main Street over to Spruce, he pushed the building back 100 feet so that it bordered Spruce Street and made the back the front.
The front, yeah.
Again, you can notice the street. See, I guess it's asphalted, but the curbs, the parking is dirt. Still in the photos. From our research, we found out they managed to pave the whole thing and put in curbs in the 1930s.
Oh,
that was a major civic project that they did back then.
Yes, I remember that very well.
Now this became something else. Is this the building that became what is the furniture store?
Chitwood's. We have a picture that says Chitwood's Furniture Store next door to this building.
Is that right? Well, I didn't work there then. I worked at the other place on the other side of the street, and then
it became Hilburn's. Mortuary for a while. And the McIntyres had a gift shop in the building between the old M&N building.
When you were a teenager growing up, did you get any jobs to earn any money in downtown Newhall?
I wasn't looking for a job. I wasn't industrious. I was lazy, frankly. All I wanted to do was read books.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good too. There's nothing wrong with that. Here's a photo of a place. Did you know a lady named Frances Phillips by any chance?
Yes, certainly.
This was supposedly her restaurant. And I'm also told that she owned the first automobile in Newhall.
Yes, I understand that. I know Bert Haskell says it was the first automobile she ever rode in, was in Mrs. Phillips' car.
Now, this is another building that was moved over from Railroad Avenue. Apparently, this was on Railroad Avenue, and when, of course, the business moved over, she moved the building and turned it into a restaurant, and I'm told it was a boarding house. Maybe upstairs they had a couple rooms or something.
Could be, yes.
And then next door to the right of this building, Mr. Chex was his name, put up a little tire store there, vulcanizing or something. Firestone.
Yes.
Do you recognize where this is? This is taken on Spruce Street. Do you know whose that is?
Oh, yes. That's the blacksmith shop and the Frew home right next to it.
Right.
And, of course, the girls, Evangeline and Marion, were good friends of mine, so I spent a good deal of time there.
Tom, do you remember that house?
No, that house was gone before I was born. I remember the old shop.
Right.
Sure, yeah.
But,
right.
It lasted much longer than the house, yeah.
Here's another picture on Spruce Street, and this was Ed Pardee's livery stable, which is, I guess, right across the street. Kind of convenient, you know.
Yes, I think
if your
so.
horse threw a shoe, you could just run across the street, and you or the horse could run across the street. I don't know which one you would.
That looks like a well-groomed horse, doesn't it?
Yes, and Ed Pardee holding the horse there at the front. And there were only 3 businesses on Spruce Street when Railroad Avenue was thriving, and those are 2 of them. And this is the 3rd one, the hotel.
Oh, yes,
See, now, right behind these trees here would be the blacksmith shop, and directly across the street is Ed Pardee's livery stable, and right on the corner there of Market and Spruce Street would be the 2nd Southern Hotel. You would never in a million years recognize that as San Fernando Road, would you?
I guess not.
I remember when this burned down.
The 2nd Southern Hotel.
Yeah,
yes.
I think I was in probably 4th or 5th grade. It burned down during the day, and every kid in school left school to go up and see the burning building, of course. And one of my dear friends was hit by a car, Naoma Lampkin, and her leg was broken. So, of course, I always remembered that. Yeah.
So you mean when she left school, she got hit by the car?
Yeah.
Boy, would we have lawsuits today if that happened. Now, here's some photos you shared with us, and I'd like you to have to go over these. Here's one of a picnic.
Yes.
Is this a 4th of July picnic or just a picnic?
No, just a picnic. They used to have picnics a lot of the time.
You know, I know you know some of the
That
people
was
in there.
Floaty Powell, or Floaty Ziegler, as she used to be.
On
And
the
this
far
is
left.
Bert Haskell. Let's see, Bailey. And that's my mother. And that's Mrs. Reynolds. And that's Mrs. Young. And this lady, I don't know.
So your mother is the 3rd from the left. Now, who's that sitting in front of her? Are you in there at all?
No, I don't. No. This was before my time. This is probably one of my sisters, one of those, but I don't know which ones.
Okay. And that was taken here somewhere around Newhall, I presume?
Yes,
And this other one, of course, is looked like a little early civic improvement. They were all getting out to clean the street.
There was many years ago. In fact, I was looking at some of their notices today. They had a Newhall Improvement Club here years before there was anything like a Chamber of Commerce or anything of that sort. And this was probably as a result of that. That's my father right there.
Oh, is that your father? And the second man from the right there?
Yes,
But this is probably the whole town, don't you think? I mean,
just about.
There weren't a lot of people here. And of course, in the background, we can see the back of the 2nd Southern Hotel, and this is taken before the Swall building was built. So we have to figure around 1915.
I would think so. I would think so. Yes.
Let me ask you about a few names of some people that we have here. Well, when Gladys first called me up on the phone, I had been quoted in the Daily News about a cowboy star named Tom Mix, who had made movies in our community. As a matter of fact, of course, he was a big star at the time, and he had a little area called Mixville down here on Market and Newhall Avenue around the First Presbyterian Church. Tell me a little bit about Tom Mix and his family.
Well, he and his wife lived at the little cottage that was on the Pardee property at the corner of Market and Newhall. And I remember him bargaining for his horse at our front steps one time. The man brought the horse in, and he bargained and bought him, and that was his, what was it? Tony, I think, was his horse.
Oh, really? So he bought his famous horse here in Newhall?
Yeah,
huh?
It was a Newhall horse.
Oh, wow. I want to ask you about a couple of other people. A.C. Swall. Tell me about A.C. Swall. Did you know him?
Yes, but just vaguely. He was out of my territory. I was young, and he was a big shot in town, and he wasn't a particular friend of my family. So he was never at our house or anything. So I really didn't know him well. I remember his wife well, principally because of her blonde hair. She had beautiful blonde hair.
It said that Swall at one time or another, he was apparently a real estate man. Today he'd be a real estate man, and he supposedly either owned or brokered most of the property at one time or another along Spruce Street, including the the Babcock property, which was sold to Mr. Hart. Mr. Hart. So he was sort of a mover and a shaker in the early years, the 1920s, in our community. Tell me a little bit about Henry Clay Needham.
Well, he was a very interesting man, and the main thing I remember about him, he'd come to our Presbyterian church for the Sunday school, and he was quite an impressive figure, and he'd give us a speech, but he didn't give a speech. He gave an oration. He was a true orator.
In the old school.
Oh, yes, his voice going up and down. You know, I don't have an idea what he talked about. I'm sure he talked about sin and certainly brought up the evils of drink because he was a prohibitionist,
Yes,
you know.
yes.
But the nice thing about him, he gave candy to everybody then.
And as a little kid growing up, you appreciated it.
Yes, indeed. Everybody did.
He was a politician, wasn't
he? Another thing he did that I remember, I was up at the ranch one time, and every afternoon or every evening, he broke up walnuts and called the squirrels, and just dozens of them would come to get the walnuts.
Wow.
So
I was doing a little research. Of course, Henry Clay is an unusual name, except Henry Clay Needham was born in 1851.
Was he?
In Kentucky.
Yes.
And if you're...
That's why one reason they were friends. They were both Kentuckians.
They were both Kentuckians then.
Well, excuse me for interrupting.
No, that's okay. But I was... Henry Clay, of course, the statesman, politician, ran for president, a big founder of the Whig Party from about 1800 to 1850. He died in 1852, and I figured since Henry Clay Needham was born in 1851, his parents must have been big fans of the politician Henry Clay, and they decided to name one of their children after him. And so I'm guessing that's probably where he got his name. It's not, you know.
I knew his daughter, Nell Needham, very well, and Russell Needham lived across the street from us for some time. And this is a picture of them.
Oh, yeah, we have some pictures of them here.
That's Mr. Needham.
Okay.
And that's Nell Needham. That's Mrs. Needham. And that's Russell Needham. And that's Nell Needham. Mrs. Needham wasn't here very much. I don't know whether she didn't like ranch life, or perhaps she thought it was better for the children to go to school in Los Angeles than to bring them here, you know.
So they had a second home in
They had a home on Bunker Hill, which was quite a well-known district at that time. So she wasn't here a great deal of the time.
Now, was this Nellie Needham Miller that lived down on Newhall Avenue in later years?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Of course, their property now is Eternal Valley Cemetery, but you remember the ranch when they were living on it then, right?
Oh, yes. And I remember the graveyard there, too. The old graveyard.
He had gotten it. It was Lyon Station originally, and then he got the property, and that was his ranch. Well, I think we've just about gone through all of our names and looked at all of our photos here, and I would like to thank you very much for sitting down and joining us today.
It's not too dull.
Oh, I don't think it'll be dull at all. I don't think it'll be dull at all.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure sharing photos and memories with you. Tom, thank you for joining us and allowing us to sit in front of your house. And it's a beautiful day for it, isn't it?
It sure is.
Well, we've had a really nice time sitting here and visiting with Gladys Laney and Tom Frew. Until next time, this is Philip Scorza for Points of Interest.